Prologue. His Highness a Mistral could never forget the fateful day that brought about the Age of the Damned, even though his age was already counted in millennia. That day the great king of Bordalania was sitting in his private office. He had given the order not to be disturbed by anyone. The elf had placed the black pinion-shaped stone under his tongue. Thanks to it he was transferred to his lord's palace, where he could observe from a distance how the ritual took place through a magic mirror. The members of the society had waited a long time until they could achieve Elaban's triumph. A reward for his patience and his great ability to deceive the gods to hide his true plans. Not only that, although they possessed the triumph of Elaban, the members of society had to wait for the right moment when the conjunction of the stars would be propitious. On that day, the king of Turkheimak, leader of society and the favorite of his lord, was the one who performed the ritual. Since he was also the high priest of Elaban, nothing could go wrong. His lord was happy, he could finally return to Sharnaries to claim what was his. The great king watched as the ritual was performed, everything was going according to plan. The soul of the dark god was about to be reincarnated again, the jewels glittering showing all the power given by Elaban to mortals. And that now it would be used for what was originally intended to be avoided. Then disaster struck, the body that was supposed to be the receptacle of his deity rose up and bit the king of Turkheimak, who transformed into a black-skinned, yellow-eyed being. The two contaminated ones bit everyone present who was performing the ritual, who in turn transformed and transmitted the curse to all the inhabitants of the city. Something happened in his lord's palace, the great king was shaken and expelled from the other plane. He returned to his body feeling a strong blow in his chest, almost choking on the black stone. The ritual had failed, the great king spat blood while he kept the black stone very upset. As he sat up, he heard a knock on the door with great alarm. At the same time the rain was lashing the windows of the royal office, a great storm had broken out. Her Majesty opened the door, the servants warned her that the queen was in danger. They could not explain well what happened. The queen had entered a state of trance, her eyes rolled and she began to say unintelligible words. Then she began to pull her hair out in such a strong way that it turned to blood. They could not calm her, she seemed possessed, she showed unnatural strength, she left all the guards, nobles, and servants who tried to subdue her seriously injured. Panic broke out in the court. As a result of the confusion the queen managed to disappear until after a few hours they found her, but they did not dare to approach her without the presence of Her Majesty. His servants led him to one of the deepest areas of the palace. Below the great waterfall there was a small grotto where a waterfall fell. The king knew the place, it was where the great god Label had laid the foundations of the palace. There lay the queen, she was found dead, she had committed suicide, opening her own entrails with her hands. A slow agony that allowed him to write a few words on the ground with his own blood before dying. After the priests return to the cursed city. When the two moons cross again with the great god watching. The black door will open again in Itzamir. From where the two black demons will emerge to cover with a great black shadow all of Sharnaries. The king ordered the prophecy to be written and sculpted on a huge marble tombstone that was placed in the place where the queen's body was found. The queen has since been buried in that same place. All those who read those words were ordered to keep the secret on pain of death. After that day events unfolded. The priests of Elaban disappeared to extermination, were blamed for the curse of Turkheimak, and the jewels were lost. The cursed city was contained by the Great Wall and abandoned to its fate, the damned wandering its streets during the night, plunged into eternal hunger. And that was the beginning of the Age of the Damned. Since then, the great king comes down once a week to visit the queen's tomb. Society managed to recover from the defeat. The first thing they did was to reflect on the reason why their plan was a failure. They soon came to the conclusion that Elaban had deceived them all. They took it easy and did not take drastic measures. As the days, years, and millennia went by, they had time to reflect on everything that happened. The most enlightened members of society came to the conclusion that the ritual had not been performed correctly. Because of the arrogance of the king of Turkheimak who had trusted himself too much. In addition, the candidate to receive his divinity was not of such pure blood, an essential requirement to endure the ritual. In spite of all their precautions, they had sinned of being too unwary and ended up falling into Elaban's trap. The god had taken revenge for the treachery of the king of Turkhaymak and condemned all those who lived there, but he had to pay a high cost. Elaban was cast out of the heavens for disobeying Labal's command not to interfere in Shanares by causing the curse. In society they suspected that he had been reincarnated and that he was present in Shanares, but they did not know in whom. Society was not in a hurry, they were patient and constant, they learned from their mistakes. They managed to increase the power of society in a remarkable way during the Age of the Damned. Now they were much more numerous. During this time also, with patience and talent, they managed to gather all the jewels until by a stroke of fortune they were able to obtain again the triumph of Elaban, which remained during the Age of the Damned totally unattainable. It was then that the first unforeseen event arose. Phedoris betrayed society to achieve his own immortality, but his plans were thwarted by a young outcast from the north, named Arian, with the help of Aris, the chosen one of the gods, along with a group of mercenaries. She was able to master Elaban's triumph, something that only a priestess of Elaban could do, and the half-orc possessed the black sword of the king of Turkhaymak, whose origin dates back to the First Era. All this could not be a coincidence. However, with the appearance of Arian, the first sentence of the Elf Queen's prophecy was fulfilled, so the opening of the Black Door was inevitable. A great opportunity that society could not miss.